The soldier, above all others, prays for peace, for it is the soldier who must suffer and bear the deepest wounds and scars of war. General Douglas MacArthur.
Fairfield has always been a strong military community. When you look around, you look at Memorial Day or Veterans Day, you go up to Central Park. At one time, they always used to put up more than 500 American flags. We've had a lot of distinguished people serve in this community. There's probably, I would say, at least 5 or 6 that became generals here in Fairfield. And one of them, Richard Lawson, became a 4-star Air Force. His younger brother was a 2-star who became the Adjutant General of the Iowa National Guard. Their younger brother, Roger Lawson, was a retired colonel. He also served in Vietnam and was a professor of military science at University of Iowa. So the Fairfield community has always backed the military. People see the sacrifice that soldiers make and their families make. Not only does the soldier sacrifice, but his wife or his children. When you're gone for months at a time and your wife or your kids are at home fending for themselves, that's really tough. The real heroes are the ones that didn't come home. They're the ones that sacrificed, the ones that lost limbs or come home maimed, and those are the ones that are the heroes of the service.
I was born in Fairfield. I grew up on a farm. I graduated from Fairfield High School. When I told my family that I was going to join the Army, my mom, she was shocked, but I think she was happy that I was going to find something that was a good, strong career. My sisters were happy for me. My youngest sister, Christy, she would go out on the gravel roads with me and run and sing cadence with me. And she's like, "You got this. You're gonna get in shape. I'm gonna help you." Farm girl from Iowa, getting on a plane, not knowing anybody. I was scared to death. Then all my family was there, and they're holding back tears. Probably the first time that I saw my dad. I'm sorry, because it brings me to tears because he never cries. But the first time I saw tears in his eyes, and I knew I'm gonna go make him proud. 9/11 is a day I think that everybody can remember no matter what they were doing. I remember hearing pounding on doors and people yelling, and my roommate and I were like, "What is going on?" And we turned the TV on and we saw the second plane hit.
There was another one. We just saw another one.
And we heard the code that they used for get your stuff together, which means gather, duffel bags, everything, get ready to put your gear on. We're getting our trucks ready, we're getting weapons, we're hitting the road. And so when that happened, I was working in the arms room, which means I had to get the weapons out to everybody quickly. And so I went down to the arms room, and then we had to, as military police officers, shut down Fort Hood. The people you meet along the way, as I said before, they just become your family. They were there for you during that time, protecting your butt, helping save your life so you could get back to your family. The people that I served with are pretty proud also, and I don't think they would let you call them heroes because they would just say, I was just doing my job. The same as I was just doing my job. I have a picture of my dad and myself on one of my deployments coming home, and I think he had just carried my duffel bag or something on his shoulder, and that picture just means a lot to me to have that and see his smile and know that he was proud of me and that, hey, I accomplished this and my dad's proud of me.
I was in a big hurry to grow up, probably too big a hurry, and I did find a challenge. Marine Corps boot camp is not for everyone, and what they talk about is pretty true. It may not be as tough as what they say the SEALs are, but as a group, they're a bunch of tough son of a bitches, let me tell you. So they need some people to volunteer for Vietnam, and I said, I'm out of here, so I went to Vietnam. I was 18 years old, and I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. It's unheard of, but that's because they needed a lot of fresh bodies. Well, I got injured, and I had about 30 days left in country, and I won't go into all the details, but I got hit by friendly fire. It makes me even less of a hero, but that happens a lot. Just think about you and your buddies or your brothers with a bunch of firecrackers. Somebody always gets hurt. Now give them rifles and give them grenades, give them artillery. People get hurt. When you're in combat, most combat veterans will tell you this, is that it boils down to the guy on your left and the guy on your right. And that's who you're fighting for. You're not fighting for God. You're not fighting for your country. You're fighting for this guy. You're fighting for that guy. And he's doing the same for you. I think Shakespeare said it best when, like Henry V, you know, we lucky few, we band of brothers, and that's what it is. And anybody that's been in combat will tell you the same thing. So maybe the guy who gets a Medal of Honor, he'll tell you he didn't do anything special, but he did.
The superintendent I had in high school was an old CB during World War II. And the best training I had from Marine Corps boot camp was what I learned from him, is keep your mouth shut and do what you're told. After World War II, the Russians and the Chinese decided Korea needed to be divided, so the south half went free and the north half went communist. But then the North Korean Army invaded June 23rd, 1950. The Marines and the Army got there and they stopped that, and then so there was shooting back and forth. I was lucky. I was back about a mile and we'd get some incoming artillery once in a while, but not like the guys, the line companies up on the hills. I was one of 5 on the personal guard for the commanding general of the 1st Marine Division. This was after the truce was signed. So I stayed on there till I came home. Good duty, good eating. When I came back from Korea, there was no fanfare, no nothing. I come into Iowa City on the train and got off and got on the bus and got off at the farm, and that was it. Called Rose, and we got married in October that year. It's been 64 years now, so.
George Voorhees was stationed at Pearl Harbor in December of 1941, and he actually witnessed the first plane drop the first bomb at Pearl Harbor, and he told us he didn't know what to do. And so he ran into the nearest building, and he told the officer there, "We're under attack. This is the real McCoy. The hangars are burning. We're under attack." And so the commanding officer started sounding the alarm and telling everyone to take cover. That was George Voorhees from Jefferson County. He sounded the alarm at Pearl Harbor that morning.
I was 16 years old. They had news on about Pearl Harbor. I came home and Dad says, "Son, we got a problem. We're going to go to the war, I'm sure."
You know, the next morning, they're lined up all around the block to enlist and go. It really was quite an emotional time.
The principal of school, he was the National Guard. He said, "Boys, I'm giving this here permission letter for you to join a home guard." In September 1943, they said, "You're in."
It was just something you felt you had to do. There was no question, you just did it. And it's probably one of the better things I've done in my life.
I landed in England on my 21st birthday to board a ship to go to the Battle of Bulge. We had 2 troop ships. One was a Cheshire and the other was a Leopoldville. We had 4,500 troops. 2,000 paratroopers were already on the Leopoldville by mistake. So we had to get those off the ship and everything was mixed up, confusion, units got separated. I was lucky. I didn't get put on a Leopoldville. We had 3 British destroyers and 1 French destroyer with us as an escort. But then just before dark, about 5 minutes till 6, Christmas Eve, the torpedo hit the Leopoldville. We were just 5 miles from Cherbourg. You could see the lights, but no one gave the alarm that the ship had been torpedoed for a half hour. And it was Christmas Eve, and I guess the people on shore were partying and weren't paying much attention. Finally, the British ship, the Brilliant, pulled up alongside to try and take some of the troops off. But the waves, by then, we were having a pretty good storm. The waves were running about 9 feet high, and the ships were banging together, and the guys were jumping from one ship to the other. The ships were bouncing up and down. Some of them were mistiming their jump, falling in between, being crushed, or falling into the ocean. After 2.5 hours, the ship finally went down, and they figured 1,000 boys into the ocean. The water was 48 degrees. We sat there for an hour, being helpless to do anything. We lost 802 boys getting across the channel. They had bodies on the dock, rode up just like cordwood. It was a terrible experience.
One time we got hit. We turned around and go back to England, and we lost our first engine, second engine, our third engine just as it was coming in. And we came down too fast, too quick. First airfield we saw, and took that baby and just twisted right in half, right at Bombay, right in half there. And fortunately, none of us got hurt. It was went into just a wheat field, just been plowed, so it's nice and soft.
Women in World War II, our whole lives changed, because up until that point, women stayed home, took care of the kids, did the housework and everything. And suddenly, it's not just the women who were in the service that were important. There were a lot of women doing work on the home front that was absolutely just as much important. Well, there were 2 openings in Seattle. And I had this fellow in Seattle that I really liked. So I put down I wanted to go to Seattle. And while there I worked in censorship, which was censoring all the telegrams that went in and out of the country. One fun thing was when I was monitoring the telephone company, this guy is calling his girlfriend or vice versa, and it got a little hot. It was fun to listen to.
All the day long, whether rain or shine, she's a part of the assembly line. She's making history, working for victory. Rosie the Riveter.
We came up with Rosie the Riveter, and I'm sure you all remember those songs about Rosie the Riveter and pictures, but she was really just as important as any man that worked at Boeing, and if we hadn't had their airplanes, we wouldn't have won the war. And of course, we wouldn't have lost so many people, but who knows where we would be now if we hadn't won that war. Think what they've done for our country and how much we owe all these men who never returned. And a lot returned that were maimed, and their life hasn't been the same since.
There were many heroes on that board, the Leopoldville, and a lot of people gave their life helping others survive. It's hard to describe just what a true service is, I guess. There's so many memories that come to mind that I don't really want to talk about.